I'm not seeing it yet.
Uh, there it should be going. I believe we are live.
There it is.
How's the boat coming along?
I worked on a little bit yesterday. I've got the intake manifold all cleaned up. I'm trying to share this. There we go.
Right.
Well, Rusty, we took a week off. Now I'm rusty. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, we kind of played. We're both a little bit too busy there last week, I guess.
Yeah. It's freezing in here. I got door open. This cold weather's stupid. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So are you in the Oldsmobile right now?
Yeah, I'm pulling into the Dollar General parking lot here. Hang out, live stream a little. Trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, I got a pretty good surprise though. This 454 is actually a Gen 6 because I was right there at that cutoff. So when I pulled the intake and I seen the big oval ports, I was pretty excited.
Oh, you didn't know that before.
I knew that the engine had been replaced, so it was replaced before we bought it. It had less than 100 hours on it when we bought it. So the
Oh, okay.
original serial number and tag was missing. So I wasn't 100% sure what engine was in it. I knew it was a reman.
Right.
So I pulled the intake off and seen, it could have been the oval port. They had the peanut port, and then they've got the
Yeah.
Gen 6. So I was pretty excited to see the big ports. We've got the good heads.
Yeah, those heads on those are huge.
They're big.
Compared to this Oldsmobile, those heads on them are huge.
I forgot how heavy the cast iron intakes were. I've been handling that
Oh yeah.
aluminum intake. I was like, holy crap, when I went to pull this intake off. So I seen something earlier that I'm not 100% sure in the tuning, and I need to dig around a little farther.
Okay.
Have you seen, when you have your monitors, you can see all your engine parameters there. You have engine coolant temp.
Yeah.
This gentleman's engine coolant temp went red. I
Uh-huh.
believe around 212 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm not sure is there a setting in there to set that, or is that just
Yes.
is it a default?
Let me.
I'm trying to think.
Can you even see that? What's the shit?
Yeah.
So if you right click on it and go to properties, then you can change the warning and the alarm.
Oops. Actually,
The alarm would be when it turns red.
right. So that'd be in the gauges on here. Let's see. Aha. I guess I've never messed with that. Learned something.
That was
You'd think
one of
I would have known
those
that. This is okay.
It's kind of one of those things you just stumble upon, really.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I seen his went red. Like the default on mine I'm looking at right now is negative 39. Range settings negative 39, maximum 211. So then the thresholds for
Yeah,
warrant.
that's what I have on mine.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've
my
never messed
warning
with.
apparently 86, alarm 148. Mine does. I keep mine red. Um, that way, like if I'm driving and I just glance down, the only one I have red is my engine coolant temp. That way, it draws my eyes to it.
Right. Well, the problem that happened with this thing was running perfect. You know, we had his IX been adjusted. We made a few adjustments. He's running a small block with a 383 with a pretty decent camshaft in it. Nothing real crazy, but
Yeah.
everything's running good. He was out on a drive and he was kind of like you right now. We were hotspotting from his phone and he pulled up to stop. I mean, he's driving. We're probably 10 or 15 minutes into the drive, making some small adjustments. We're at the point now, we've got his VE table dialed in. We're working on some of the tip in and decel stuff.
Yeah.
And pretty close to being done with the tune. And he pulls up to a stop sign and his IAC just plummets. Like it, and it was idle way up. I mean, it was idle like 1700. I mean, nothing had changed. It's almost like somebody went in there and changed something right on the fly.
Like the throttle blades got opened up or something.
So something changed, you know, pretty drastically. So, and that's when I seen that engine. You know, first thing I did is pop over and look at in the monitors looking for faults. And,
Yeah.
and I seen that one in red, and I'm like, I've never seen that actually do that. I guess I've never seen one running hot. He was up in the. He ended up getting up into the 220 degree plus range. So,
Oh, geez.
and I don't know if that was affecting that. I've got some data logs to go over. That was about an hour ago, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and
Yeah.
figure out what happened there. I'm hoping it's not an IAC problem. I'm gonna look at all the temperature base tables. I don't know if there's something in there that would have changed.
Typically, the default settings for like IAT and engine coolant temp usually don't pull any timing or anything out. And
And he's running HEI too, so we're not using
Yeah.
any timing control.
Oh, yeah. So very well could be. I mean, I know that sometimes an IAC motor just goes bad for no reason.
Yeah. What's crazy is it's like, you know, working with another gentleman and his IAC basically seems like what it's commanding and what it actually does is two different things.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very, very slow reactions to it. So I think it's weird. It seems like, and you've experienced this. It's like you get on, you're tuning with some guys, and you see a bunch of barrow problems. So I've seen two of those barrow problems like back to back, and now it's like a pair of IACs back to back. I've got another guy that he had an ECM problem. It's almost like they go in pairs when we're seeing these problems with them.
Mine's been all oxygen sensors.
Yeah.
All oxygen sensors all the time, all jackpots.
Does it any particular bank one, bank two, or has it been just kind of random?
Most of the time it's bank 2, and that's fine because then, you know, if I have them change plugs and that doesn't fix it, then I can just turn bank 2 off, you know.
Right.
One in particular, it's bank 1, and it's been 3 different brand new oxygen sensors with no difference to anything. It still will not read on bank 1, period. So that we're kind of stuck on that until he either gets a hold of Aces or I kind of got to the point where I said, I'm not telling you to do this, but what if you cut bank one harness off and bank two harness off and soldered them together? Soldered bank one on there, and just, I don't know if there's a wire in the loom, or you know what I mean?
He can switch sensors, and it's not the sensor itself. Sensor
No, it's not the
problem
sensor itself.
doesn't follow the sensor if you switch them.
No, it's in the plug.
Yeah.
So it's either in that harness or it's in that ECU, but I lied. He did have his ECU tested. His ECU was tested by Aces and it checked out fine, they said. It's almost would have to be in those harnesses.
What, like just bad pin tension or?
See, I don't know. I guess the next step probably is going to be a multimeter to check the plugs, to check the voltage, maybe continuity. I don't know. But I can't, I told him, I said, we can tune it. I mean, your bank two is going into closed loop and it's reading your AFR, but for whatever reason, with only bank two coming on and not bank one, it's not putting any data into the bank two learn table. So we're not getting any learn data. And I said, well, we can still tune this if you can get me data logs as you're driving it, so I can manually, basically do you an open loop tune. I said it's going to take a lot of time.
That's just to get by, though, and that's going to be tough to do without you there. I mean, unless he has some
100%.
He's going to have to bear with you on that one because that's going to be pretty tough to do remotely. It's
possible, it's running good for him. It's running good for him. He's able to drive it and everything with what I have in there, but at the same time, I mean, it needs to be right one way or the other. I mean, he bought the system, he put it on, it should work.
And it's no software problems or anything like that. All that's been updated, or
yeah, I updated everything to the newest.
You tried an older version, just for.
The original version he was on, I think, was 2.48.
Braden Hall says, "You think my truck will run good with a cooked harness?" And I doubt it. I doubt it'll run very good with.
Oh, Braden Hall. I can't see the comments since I'm on my phone. Yeah, his caught on fire.
And hopefully you can get it straightened out. Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know if you can buy just a harness or not.
Yeah, I don't know, and I feel bad because I'm the guy that they depend on to get it worked out, but without me being there physically, I can't really do anything to it mechanically or electrically, So it's kind of it's got to be up to the customer to kind of figure that out, but we can give guidance at least.
Yeah, I was going to see. I have an email here. So when I was working, I know what it was. When I was working on that Oldsmobile, I sent you that video of the AEM wideband light. When you power it on, it takes almost 40 seconds, I believe, for that to light up.
Yeah,
it's ready. I reached out to tech support at Aces just to get some, and I'm sure a lot of that's this wideband controller's literally the size of this gauge. I mean, I'm sure that's something to do with it,
Mm-hmm.
that one I would expect to take longer. So I reached out to the tech support and I had a conversation with them about, with the ACES system, ECUs, how long for the heat up. They said that they believe that there's, because you can't see that parameter. So anybody that might watch this or see this later or whatever it's watching now, there's no, like Nick and I had talked about for reference here, these AEM gauges, the gauge style AFR gauges, the wideband on this is the whole controller. You plug this thing in, the wideband heats up. It takes 40 seconds for this thing to come up to full temperature. If it's not up to temperature, it will not read correctly. That's the case with any wideband out there, even any heated oxygen system. It doesn't even have to be a wideband, narrowband, any of them. If they don't come up to temperature, they will not read correctly. So
I almost wonder if these ones don't heat up until the engine's already started, because mine never got warm when I just powered it on.
did it have to see RPM or something?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because, after you first fire it up, it doesn't immediately go into closed loop. There's that probably almost 30, maybe 30 seconds to a minute before. And that also depends on what you have your closed loop coolant temperature set to. But
Right.
like even when it's warm, it's not going into closed loop until after, the after start enrichment and all this and that and everything else. All the startup shit's decayed out of it. So I don't know if maybe they aren't actually running that heater until it sees engine RPM, which would make sense, because if it's just running open loop there in the beginning, then it's just kind of going off of the VE table and targeting a set value.
Well, most of them in the OEM, when you turn the key on, the oxygen sensor heats immediately. And
Mine never did. It never got warm.
When it gets up to temperature, then it just duty cycles that back. And as the engine temperature comes up, that way you get through the condensation stage where,
Yep.
ACES says, the tech support told me that they believe about 10 seconds is what's the time that it takes for their wide bands to heat up.
Okay.
So, I would recommend anybody, when you start up, turn the key on. That's probably just about the time it takes for the screen to kind of boot up if you have your handheld before you crank one up. If your exhaust is not already hot, your engine's not already hot, I would try cycling that on, because I think a lot of times people are killing those oxygen sensors before they even get past, they do the wizard tune before they've even contacted yourself or, you or myself for tune. They've already killed them oxygen sensors.
Yeah,
everything is so rich most of the time.
Most times they are already, when I actually get on their computer, they're already fried.
Yeah, Braden, since you can't see the comments, he said he went out and bought the master kit, Jackpot 2 kit with the high rise intake. Should be in soon.
Yeah, we gotta get him tuned up since he had his fire. we had that thing running pretty good until it decided it was not gonna be not on fire anymore.
What caught on fire? Just something else in the truck?
Yeah, I think he'll have to probably comment. I can't exactly remember, but I think it was something else that caught everything on fire. I'm not exactly sure.
That would be rough. Yeah, that's my big thing with this boat. I'm going to take my time, make sure things are, we're gonna try to err on safety.
My comments are showing up now. Yeah.
Making sure blowers and stuff. I think I'm going to put the blower system on the starter on a delay. That way it automatically delays the start by 20 or 30 seconds. Make sure it's cleared any fuel or any exhaust fumes. As I'm horrible about remembering to turn my blowers on before I start it.
Yeah, you just got to be careful, I guess.
Trying to stay away from an explosion. Fire doesn't scare me as bad as blowing one up. Like I think I sent you a video of what these boats look like when the fumes ignite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be pretty interesting. Hopefully this week it should fire up. I had to get a new intake gasket because it didn't have the cylinder heads that I thought it was. I decided to get the bigger,
Oh, yeah.
which I was kind of bummed out that I couldn't bolt it down last night. But I'm like, that's okay. I got the better head, so
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. How was your weather up there this morning?
Freezing.
Same here. Yeah. We had snow.
You had snow?
Yeah.
Really?
It snowed. I guess it snowed pretty bad last night. I mean, nothing really stuck, but yeah, I had my whole windshield was covered this morning when I got up for work.
Yeah, I got I don't know if you can see it in the picture. There's a Volkswagen RV partially in the door, so the door's standing wide open. That's why I got trying to stay warm. I got the wheels off of it. I couldn't get it all the way in. I've got a bunch of junk in front of it, but it won't. I don't think it'll fit in between the lift arms on the lift and with the boat here.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot of HP tuners work for some reason.
That's good.
Yeah, a lot of PO59 trucks. And actually, working with it more is kind of making me maybe like it more.
Biggest thing is that with the HP tuners is those histograms and your data logging and stuff. It's a little harder to set those tables up.
Yeah.
Did you ever mess with any of those ones I sent you?
Yeah. I've used the layouts you sent me in channel lists, and then Ryan Davis has some channel lists on his Facebook page that he has them public. I've been using his GM Gen 3 channel list, and then GM Gen 3 GM everything layout or something like that.
So yeah, what I sent you should be pretty good for 3, 4s and some Gen 5 stuff, but the Gen 5 stuff's kind of out there.
Yeah, I short-term, long-term trim, short-term, long-term math.
And then you get into like a Ford, like those Ford 3.5s, and all those are worthless. You gotta start over.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been keeping myself pretty much just to the Gen 3. I think I am going to be taking on a Gen 4 soon. But for the most part, I kind of really just rather stick to GM with that for right now.
Right. Then the Gen 4 stuff is not too bad if they have a camshaft, if they're, they lock the camshaft down. If it's still doing the variable valve timing stuff, you can get a little bit of a mess there if you're not real familiar with it. But.
Yeah. Charlie Brown said, thanks, man. I was just working with him before we got on here, which brings up a good point. If you're running the Jackpot and you are using transmission control, make sure you choose the drive-by-wire firmware.
yeah, it will not work without it.
I updated his ECU and I put in the freaking wrong firmware, and he's like, well, I tried to take it out for a drive and it won't shift. It won't shift at all. I said, well, I wonder why the hell it's doing that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I put the wrong firmware in there, and yeah, so we got that straightened out.
I had a guy one time kind of argue with me. He's like, no, it will. It's drive-by cable. I'm like, yeah, but even with drive-by cable, you have to select the drive-by wire for the transmission control, and then you toggle it off in the other side. But I'm like, you have to load the drive-by wire, or it will not control the transmission. And then shortly into his tune, his transmission was not working correctly. He had to take it back out. So I'm wondering if I don't know how long he drove on it before he got in contact with me because he said it never was shifting right, and he just thought it was a bad transmission. So
Yeah. Charlie only took his out once and realized it wouldn't shift and went back and parked it. So we got him fixed up tonight with that. And hopefully we can continue on with his tune and get him better and better. He's another one with his Bank 202 sensor. What went on with that? We're only running one. We're just running Bank 102.
like I said, now that I'm into this install on my own, I'm going to try to get some good data on this. I'm going to get the oscilloscope on there, and I'm going to try to get some good information to put out there. So hopefully we can learn a little bit more of how, why, when, and where, what those are doing. And maybe I'm trying to devise a way without being able to see the oxygen sensor parameters within the tuning software, a way to troubleshoot the problem. Is it a sensor? I mean, besides what we do now, the only thing we can do is swap them, see if the problem follows the sensor. If it, and what I've seen, just like you, it's not been following the sensor. It's usually something on that harness for whichever bank's messed up, whether that's a computer problem, is that checking the pin out on those, is that connector pinned wrong? Because I've seen so many of them, I'm almost curious if that connector is pinned incorrectly on some of these.
Very well could be. Maybe it is not pinned right. Maybe the heater's not working on one bank, and maybe that's just frying the O2 sensors.
I mean, if one of the wires in the connector, either at the ECM or even at the connector where the O2 sensor plugs in, if that's not pinned right, man, it would cause a bunch of problems. And it's been kind of random, as I've seen, just like you, I've seen several of these. And if the ECM was sent out and tested.
Steve, I have noticed that it's been older jackpot systems and mostly one newer jackpot 2, but that newer jackpot 2 could even have an older jackpot wiring harness or something with it.
Well, I can tell you this, that I know for a fact that I've seen. I was testing a Killshot 1, troubleshooting a Killshot 1, the connector. We were having some injector issues. So basically what I wanted to do was test from the ECM without disconnecting from the side of the throttle body or opening up, taking the covers off and going there to the injectors. I was wanting to test the injectors from the ECM all the way to the connector, make sure if the connector fell off or whatever. And when you go to the drawings, the pinout, they have the numbers on the connector. And I think it was 1 through whatever it is, 28 or 30 or 32. I can't remember the one that plugs into the side of the Killshot.
Yeah.
I think it might be a 24 pin. I think there's 6 pins in 4 rows, but the way on the drawing, the numbers were completely opposite. It was pinned correctly, but it was like the plug was flipped upside down, or their drawing is backwards.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to probe those wires and check for continuity and stuff all the way to the injector. And I'm getting some weird readings. And then when I started digging around a little harder, I found that the drawing description is backwards. So it may be good to take a look at, one of those oxygen sensors. And I don't know if you can visually just see from one connector to the other, if the wire colors are the same, different,
Right. Yeah, without actually having to try to pull anything apart. Just
if
maybe
one of those are pinned wrong at the ECM plug or something would, because I'm assuming they probably, if he sent it back in, usually they request the ECM and the handheld.
Yeah, not the harness.
So I'm assuming they got a bench harness that's already hooked up. They're going to grab your handheld and they're going to check your firmware and that kind of stuff, and they're going to plug it in and test it on a bench or something. If their harness is pinned correctly and yours isn't,
right?
I mean, it could be just as simple as something like that.
Yeah. Very true.
And that would be an easy, I mean, it kind of a pain in the butt, but I mean, if you have a multimeter, if you could get the pin out at the ECM, disconnect the ECM and just check continuity from the ECM to that plug to make sure all the wires are in the right pin, right in the holes. As I seen somewhere, I don't know who it was. I don't remember. Somebody had posted that they had an IAC problem or something like that, and it was pinned incorrectly.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one that the transmission harness was pinned incorrectly. So it can definitely happen, no doubt about it.
I just wish we could see some more of that data in the background.
Yes, I agree. I wish we had more parameters for injector data as well. I was able to mess around with that injector data a little bit. I had talked to you and just
really
that.
heard what you found on that.
Well, the minimum adjusting the minimum pulse width differently, can change your VE numbers at idle and coming down on decel. So if I'm not super educated on this yet. I just kind of fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole and started messing around and noticed that I was getting accurate changes and stuff. But from what I'm finding is whether or not you can enter the correct injector data from the data sheet that you get with your injectors, but what you can actually do is you can fine tune that injector data to your exact setup, and you can get that with your correct injector flow rate, your correct fuel pressure, off dead time, minimum pulse width. You can fine tune all that data to get your VE numbers, to an accurate reading.
I mean, within the ACEs, we pretty much just have two parameters: minimum fuel pulse width and the injector off time, right?
Yes, but we do have injector flow rate and fuel pressure as well. But yes, as far as the actual injector data goes, yes, that's all we have.
Where's the fuel rate?
That'll be like under settings and either custom item or
I know. Yeah, where it asks you if it's 100 pound, whatever. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
never mind.
Yeah.
Where you got like your fuel offsets and all that. Yeah, I wasn't thinking. So yeah, those are the only three parameters that you have.
Yeah.
So your minimum pulse width and your injector off time. So, gosh dang it, I hit the wrong button here. So if you're lowering the injector off time, is that what you said?
I've really only messed with the minimum pulse width and then the injector flow rate more so than the dead time. I did rescale the injector dead time on mine personally for 58 psi according to the injector data, and then instead of using I actually used the Hawley scale, voltage scale, where obviously they have more breakpoints than we do. So they have twice as many breakpoints as we have. So I used every other breakpoint for voltage, and I made sure I had a lot of resolution in the area where my car actually runs voltage wise.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, just to put it into perspective, I guess, when I first bought the kill shot and put it on here, you know, my highest VE number with 100% offset on the table, my highest VE number was like 67. And that's running
Which-
10 pounds of boost.
Oh, you at 10 pounds of boost, you're at 67?
Yes. And rich.
Whoa.
So now I have it to where I'm in the 90s at least.
I was gonna say stock configuration, that motor probably was about 70% efficient. So that's probably
Yeah.
not far off, but not with boost.
No.
I mean, with these newer engines, I mean, you could probably say that these LS motors, Cathedral Port or whichever rec port, whatever you have, I mean, these engines are probably more like 85% efficient. So you should.
The LS engines, especially on like a couple different LS engines I've done with like a stage 2, 3, 4 BTR cam, you know. I think there was one with actually had aftermarket heads on it, but the VE numbers on that were, in my mind, were pretty accurate. I think, you know, up at NA, you know, wide open throttle, you know, maybe 4,800 to 5,000 RPM. I think we were hitting maybe like 102 VE.
Right.
I felt like that was pretty accurate.
That is probably. I mean, your older motors, just your cruising range, your normal kind of medium load. I mean, you're probably.
Oh yeah, very inefficient.
You're probably right.
My valves are even like in this Oldsmobile engine, you know, the port size, intake port size, exhaust port size, and the valves are like way smaller than just the stock Gen 3 LS. So, you know, it's going to be very different, but you know, when you start cramming boost into an engine, then that's a different story.
That is a good indicator too, though. You know, people are listening to this now too. You know, if you're getting into the tuning part of this and you're trying to tune that VE table and you're really rich, which is very rare that you do a wizard tune and you're ever not completely rich.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually be running lean after doing a wizard tune, but it's usually pulling fuel out, but that's pretty rare without there being some other problem, vacuum leaks, what have you. You know, looking at that VE table and you see, you know, up in your heavy load, your cruising range, your higher RPM, right, like where your car should be making power, if you're adjusting that thing and you're seeing it all the way up into, like you just said, 80s, 90s, 100% VE, there's something probably wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You probably need to be looking at, okay, why are we commanding that much fuel or volumetric efficiency? This motor isn't that efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the boost, if you were at 60, there was something definitely was not correct on that at all.
Which you can tell, you can visibly see on my VE table how inefficient I am at idle and cruise, and then, you know, right up past 100 kPa when the boost comes in, like massive jump in VE.
Well, what's yours max out at?
Let me look.
You know Marquavius Walker?
Yes. He's actually, that's the one with, that's the guy that we've been having the worst O2 problems with.
I hadn't seen if you noticed he was on there, you say, hey, what's up?
Yeah. He's the one that I'm completely stumped with his O2 problems, but hopefully, Marquavius, if you're watching this, go back and watch where Charlie had talked about the harnesses and possibly being pinned wrong.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to take a look at. I don't know where they're produced. You know, obviously we know where these systems, all of these systems, not just ACES, where they come from. You know, I assume those harnesses are probably being made mass produced. I mean,
So
it wouldn't take much to mess that up.
My highest VE number where I'm actually running in my VE table. So what I mean by that is my VE table scaled to 200 kPa, but I have my wastegate is set for 160, around 10 to 12 psi. So my highest VE number at peak torque at 3,500 RPM at 160 kPa is 80 and a half.
Hmm.
Which is it used to be which actually I have made some changes to the car in general, you know, with the exhaust, the routing of the exhaust, the size of the exhaust, everything, like to try to get more out. So these numbers actually did come up when I made it a little bit more efficient with the exhaust and stuff.
I'm surprised that
Before,
number's not higher.
I am too, to be honest with you. But before it was like 60, I'm thinking it was like 64.75 or something like that was what I was getting into at wide open throttle. Which
And all that's different since you've replaced the injectors.
since I did the injectors and the exhaust and stuff, yeah.
Like significantly different, or
Mm,
it's close to the
yeah.
same. We're just within 5 or 10%, or
I think my idle areas before were down in the 30s, whereas now they're up in around 50. I think maybe like 38 before. I also, I guess too, also, whenever I was doing the exhaust and stuff, I ported my intake as well. But yeah, what I don't understand, I don't understand the offset to the table. There should be one volumetric efficiency table, and there should not be offsets to it, in my opinion. I mean, I understand what's going on with that is trying to make a system that anybody can buy and put on and just do a wizard tune and start it up and go. And I totally understand that, but guys aren't buying this system, putting it on, starting it up and going. At least 90% of them aren't. You know what I mean?
right?
They're
Unless I mean, if you got much more than a stock engine, you're not. You know,
mm-hmm.
and everybody selects mild cam at least.
Yeah, and I feel like that offset, because below 100 on the offset is obviously taking fuel. I'm saying fuel, but it's not actually. On the volumetric efficiency table is taking fuel out of that, and anything over 100 is adding fuel to that. So, you know, right at 100 is not adding, not subtracting. So that zero offset, which would not be an extra modifier. So we're running that at 100% to avoid that modifier. Well, you know, what is that 100% of? Because the VE table is not accurate, in my opinion.
And you're suspecting that V table's not accurate, which I kind of agree with what you're saying with, like, especially yours. I mean, I would guess that 80% under load, you should be probably more like 115, 120. I don't know.
Yeah. And that, which what I'm thinking is, like, if there was a better, like a better calculation to that or something, whatever it does when you, I think that's why they're, guys are firing them up and they're inherently rich, you know, because if a guy goes from tuning anything else with one VE table, one offset, it is what it is type of number, you know, maybe they're used to seeing, when you're tuning a base VE table, maybe they're used to seeing 100%, you come into Aces and you tune a stock VE table, a base VE table, and you draw that up like you've drawn them up on every other thing, then it's, it's ridiculously rich.
Right. Yeah, you have me curious though on the, like you said, the injector data changing that. If that injector data is how it calculates that volumetric efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
if that affects how much that affects it, does that mean your injector data is incorrect? Or is
I
it
don't think that it means that it's incorrect, or I don't think I think what I'm coming to find is something like HP tuners, where you have all the modifiers, all the data, every freaking nook and cranny of that injector data. It has so much, like a factory ECU has so much more to work with. So
Right.
maybe what you actually enter in is your injector dead time, but HP tuners has the minimum injector pulse with modifiers, I think, too. So it's changing minimum pulse width in dead times, not just based on battery voltage, but also based on RPM, I think.
right?
So we don't have any RPM modifier for that
Pressure.
injector data. So what I'm thinking, and
So that
Hollywood
skews
the same way.
calculation.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, the injector data we get for universal data for standalone systems like this is more so just a baseline, and it can actually be fine tuned.
So technically you might be 110% VE, but
It's only showing
spitting out
right.
which could be 100% off.
Right. And another thing too,
Or you said you're reading 80, so no, I was just thinking if it was 60%. If you're reading 80, it's not 100% off, but it's
right.
significantly off.
I know what you're saying. But another thing too with these injectors, these aftermarket injectors that I have in this TBI unit they do not have the same tip as the factory injector. The factory injectors that came in this TBI they're a 4-hole tip, which I'm under the impression that is a better spray pattern for a TBI unit for atomization, whereas these injectors are an LS3 style multi-port injector, and they only have 1 hole in the tip. So another factor to that is that maybe the fuel is not atomizing the same as it was before as well.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, but inside the throttle bores, there's just a swirl like drilled.
Yeah.
So I mean, the spray pattern from the injector really probably doesn't matter once it's coming through the.
And that's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering. Is
that's messing with?
Yeah. Is the way that it comes through that bore, through all those little holes, is it still the same spray pattern as it was before because of the way that it injects the fuel, or is the different injector tip affecting that at all?
Right. It makes sense. But you got yourself a rabbit hole there.
Yeah, it keeps me busy.
Yeah, that's definitely some stuff there that I would know. I mean,
Have
you ever tried putting the old injectors in, or were they just no good?
One of them was junk. It was stuck open.
I would almost be curious, just like no changes to the tune, just swap the injectors and see what it. I mean, I would.
Well, I have been tossing around the idea of getting a Killshot 2 to put on this thing. So a guy could always, put that on, run it, change the injectors, run it, and then compare.
I would be curious what the difference is.
I do know that everything that I did over winter, I went from 2.5-inch exhaust from the headers to the turbo. I changed that to a 3-inch, and I knocked probably 2 to 3 feet worth of pipe off of that. So I have a shorter distance for it to flow, and I have more flow to the turbo. And I ported my intake, and then I did those injectors, and I am noticing figure 20% higher VE values. So is that showing that I made it more efficient, or is that all due to just the injectors? I don't know.
Right.
I kind of have a really bad test subject here. She's kind of a bitch.
And I think that's just some stuff that you got to deal with a little bit with the throttle body versus port injection. I mean, I try, like, especially like tip in stuff. You can really work your butt off to try to get that tip in where it's as good as it can get, and you'll have it working really good, and then a different engine load going at takeoff, uphill, whatever. And then you'll get one where a guy will blip into it and it'll go dead lean again. And then it'll be back. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some of that you gotta.
I just did that yesterday.
I think with the throttle body stuff, you got to get it as close as you can where it's, I don't know if you can get 100% perfect without it going one way or the other. You're either going to go to one extreme. You got to get, when they blip in, you're watching it go really, really lean, or it goes a little bit lean, and then it's going to swing rich. If you get too much of that, you got so much swing trying to bring it back.
So I can get my tip in pretty good. But like that makes other areas too rich. So, which is weird. I've messed with it so much, you can get it to the point where by the time it's good and there's absolutely no bog left to it, it's too rich. It's too much fuel.
It's a trade-off.
Yes. When I I kind of sacrificed a little of that so I didn't smell gas under wide open throttle because I had so much freaking fuel going down there. Listen, like yesterday, and you can test, but it's never the same as an actual situation. I was pulling out at the intersection by my house, and my buddy was sitting there in his pickup, and he rolled his window down, held his arm out the window, and I just floored it to light the tires up. It fell straight on its face. And I let off and I got back in it, and then it took off. But like that initial freaking hard stab, that goddamn leg lifted in the air, throttle to the floor type of stab is just.
And somebody watching, so if it's gonna call for sneeze or do something stupid, it's gonna do it with people watching.
Yeah. I wish there was I almost wish I had a freaking a 3-position switch on this thing so I could have a freaking flip that switch and then I'll just make it rich as hell so I can do that and then change it back for cruising.
Change that. Maybe that's what the offset's for. So, you could.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed too, and I hadn't ran into port vacuum versus, for guys that aren't running the timing control.
Oh, yeah.
Port vacuum versus manifold vacuum. It will mess with you if you're running manifold vacuum on your vacuum advance. Get that.
Yeah, you'll be running 50 degrees of timing at idle.
Well, and trying to tune tip in. Yeah. With that timing way up here, they tip in, the timing drops, and then the mechanical has to kick in. There's a bog that happens naturally running the vacuum advance off a manifold vacuum.
Yes.
And that was and it was that way, and it's been that way. Talk to your grandpa or grandfather or dad, somebody that's tuning cars back in the 70s.
So why don't you tell them what the difference between ported vacuum and manifold vacuum is, in case they don't know?
Best way to above the butterflies, above the throttle blades, or below.
Yeah.
above the throttle blades, you're not going to see any vacuum whatsoever. There might be some, but very, very little. And as you're driving down the road, it's going to pick up some vacuum advance. It's going to advance, but not as far as
Right.
it would, So the vacuum, like an HEI distributor, I believe has 26 degrees of mechanical advance in it. The vacuum advance has, I believe, 12 or 16, somewhere in that area.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, if you've got your distributor set in at 10 degrees, mechanically under RPM, centrifugal force, it's going to get up to 36. And then when you let off the throttle blades close, you're going to pin up to, then if you added another 16, we're at 46, 48 degrees, whatever, of timing, damn near 50 degrees of timing. So when you're cruising down the road with manifold vacuum, and especially D-cell, which is good on D-cell because that advances, it usually helps with popping and banging. But from the factory back in the day, they ran manifold vacuum. For cruising speed, they advance that timing. It does help with fuel efficiency. But man, if you're trying to tune in a lean bog, that's a real treat, because for a few seconds, or I don't even know how long. You got your throttle blades open, your vacuum drops off, so that 16 degrees comes completely out of it. Then your mechanical has to take back off. So you could be cruising down the road at 36 degrees timing, stab the throttle, and drop to 20 degrees or whatever, and then have to come back in. So that's going to make a bit of a bog anyway.
Kind of like when you floor something with a quadrajet.
That's exactly what you used to hear. Everybody thought you were just hearing those big secondaries open, and that is part of it. Yeah. But some of that what sound was from the timing getting kicked out from the vacuum. But the first thing, back in the day, that was the first thing guys did, was pull it off a manifold vacuum and stick it over on their ported side. But that's something I forget to ask people, because most people have the timing control, and I learned tonight, ask, where's your vacuum hooked to your advance?
Yeah, same with having the distributor, locked out. That's something that can be easily overlooked. And if that distributor's not mechanically locked out when you're running timing control, that can cause major tuning issues. Yeah,
the computer doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I actually think I have a data log of that. Your timing on that chart will be all over the place. It'll be pulling timing when it's supposed to be adding timing.
Yep.
Paul says, can you use a vacuum gauge to help dial in the throttle body?
Oh yeah, 100% for idle.
The throttle body reading, the vacuum reading like a carburetor. I don't know why you couldn't put a vacuum gauge on there. Definitely if you're running like an HEI distributor, if you're not using the timing control, yeah, put that vacuum gauge on there, especially if you're trying to get your base timing as advanced as far as you can, try to get the most vacuum.
See, that's how I determine with the kill shots, especially. Maybe I do it wrong, maybe I don't, but that's kind of how I determine idle AFR and idle timing, is where I can get the highest vacuum.
Right. Which in my mind, using a vacuum gauge, like Paul asked, as long as your map sensor's working correctly, that is your vacuum gauge.
Right. Yep.
So if you're idling it, if you had your timing set at 8 degrees or something, and you're idling at 50 kPa, and you added 2 or 3 degrees to it, and that map drops down. If it drops down into the 45, 40s, 30s, you'll know as soon as you're turning that distributor, or as you're adding timing to it, you'll get to a point where you can put a couple more degrees in it and nothing will change.
Yeah.
But You could definitely use, that's how you tuned them back in the day, was a vacuum gauge, but in a sense you kind of have one mounted to your throttle body.
Yeah. Yeah. 100 kPa is no vacuum. So, anything below 100 kPa is vacuum. And you can find a conversion on Google for kPa to vacuum.
But essentially, you'll know by seeing that drop. Most engines, stock engines, usually idle somewhere in the 35 to 40 range. If you got a big camshaft, you're going to be maybe up in the 50, 60 range. Real nasty camshaft, you might even idle in the no vacuum range, like 70 or 80s. But
yeah,
I've seen a few pretty nasty ones like that. But
yeah,
those are a little bit of a treat to tune. Your cold start stuff, and
yeah.
those are a bit of, you're not gonna have that thing roll over on the first hit and start.
I have noticed that the kill shot kind of seems to like a big nasty cam though, as far as throttle response. Where they kind of shine with that is actually with that being inherently rich kind of thing. That big cam freaking loves that.
The thing is a lot of like startup, if you got an engine that doesn't pull any vacuum, trying to get the throttle blades open far enough that thing can get some air in there, because it can't literally suck very much air at idle on its own, especially if it doesn't do it at 800 RPMs or 900 RPMs. It really doesn't pull air into it very good at 150 cranking speed.
No.
So, I mean, I've seen guys in the LS world take a big cam and they don't have it tuned or whatever, and take drill bits and start drilling holes in the throttle body.
Holes in the throttle blade, yeah.
Throttle blade until they get it to where it'll start. Just keep stepping up drill bits. That is not the right way to do it, by the way, but it does work.
There is a old school. There is certain, like on carburetors, there is certain instances where they would drill small holes in the butterflies on a carburetor, but there's that, honestly, in my opinion, there's not really much of a reason to do that on something like an LS, unless it was like super duper non-streetable type of something, rather. But
right.
Something
that's also a way to tell, though. I mean, if you've got a big lumpy camshaft, especially on the kill shots, if you're having trouble starting that thing and you have to give it just slightly open that throttle a little bit, you need to work on that air. You can get into the IAC and help some of that too.
Yep. Yeah,
it's a little more air.
A lot of it's definitely having your throttle blades opened the correct amount, I think, too. So sometimes, put it this way, sometimes you'll get to a point where that IAC and a very cold start, like, sub 30, where that IAC is maxed out, but it needs more air, You can't open that IAC up any more than it already is.
Right. I suppose a guy could adjust on the back throttle blades if you had to. I try to stay away from adjusting those at all possible, but I have on some larger engines or bigger cam profiles, I have adjusted that back because it needed a little more air to help start it.
Mm-hmm.
Cold starts, but that can lend into a whole nother world of problems if you're not aware that those back throttle blades have been opened or messed with.
Yeah, I have mine are opened a little bit on this.
I think of the front one being more of like that's where you adjust it. If you really need to do fine tuning, is where what I mess with the back ones. I think that's the way I think of it. Well, that may be right or wrong and different, but that's kind of how I approach that back screw. If I've got something that's just really, really messing with me on, and it's usually something with a large cam profile, I will crack those back ones just a fuzz.
I always do a little tiny bit on the back, just because if they're completely closed, then fuel can pool on them. As long as there's just enough of a crack for that fuel to run off them.
Right.
there's been, like you're saying, there's been instances I've ran into where I needed to have the guy adjust them. We weren't getting enough on the front blades, but a lot of times stock cam profile, especially even maybe like a small cam, you really don't need to touch. I've never ran into a reason to have to touch them much.
Yeah, Paul said you guys kind of ran into that last winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to fool around with them a little bit, but I try to stay away from that, especially on remote tuning for somebody. I tell them, don't, if you've messed with that, let me know. It's okay. Let's get them set before we start tuning here, because I know sometimes people will start messing with those screws, and I try not to do anything with that back one until it's necessary. It, like you said,
Right.
It does need to be open, but I think pretty much from the rip, they're out of the box. They have been set, I believe.
Yeah, probably.
That
I
was the
think
last
like
one.
a quarter turn maybe or something.
Right.
Just a crack, just a crack. So I've done it.
I'll get off here and let you get in there and get your dollar store stuff before they close up on you.
Yeah, get some toilet bowl cleaner so she can clean up my mess.
Oh man.
Just messing.
get ready for Taco Tuesday tomorrow, huh?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, we'll pick back up on her next week, hopefully. And if you guys if like last week, if you don't see us on here, we're probably too busy to get together. So just keep an eye out. We try to be consistent with it, but we both have full-time jobs and stuff like that.
Stay
Family.
pretty busy.
So
If you need it, you guys need any tuning or anything like that, hit us up. Either one of us, we'll get you hooked up. I don't know about you. I run on about a week lead time, if give or take, depends on how things go. But reach out to one of us.
Yeah, I keep myself out as caught up as I can. I'm probably, I don't know, at any given time I'm two days out, probably maybe 3.
Yeah, if you get a hold of me on Friday and expect to tune on Saturday morning, that's not probably going to happen. We'll be scheduling you the following week.
If you get a hold of me really early Saturday morning while I'm up drinking my coffee, I could probably get you a remote tune in my underwear. So we can take care of that.
but right on. Yeah, reach out, hit us up, Tuned Up LLC or Boosted Solutions. But it's good talking to you. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
See you guys.